I'm Chris Grandison. Welcome to my channel, Xenogenesis, where I apply evolutionary psychology to Black community issues. And today's topic is part 3, explaining why some races are perceived as more attractive than others, which comes together to form a hierarchy of global racial desirability, which affects mate value by race. Now, in this video, we're going to explore how the psychology of prestige is a big cause of how maladaptive cultural standards that are good for white people, but harmful to non-white people, invade the cultural psychology of other races. Now, in the last episode, I discussed the concept of intergroup competition, and that the non-white world has been losing a cultural competition with the white Western world regarding attractiveness standards. And if you saw the last episode, you saw I used that video of what was going on in South Korea with all the plastic surgery to alter their face shape, their nose, their eyes, to look more like white people, because white beauty standards have competed with Korean beauty standards and taken them over. This prestige bias psychology is behind how we lose cultural competitions to white cultural standards that are harmful to us. Now, when discussing this topic, I have been repeatedly asked over the years what role Western media plays and whether white supremacy is involved in the internalizing of these white beauty standards and anti-blackness values. When individuals and groups possess attention-getting desired skills, knowledge, and competence, and they coalesce to produce a lot of success, wide social success, whether it's in a group or a population or a nation or a civilization, humans will perceive such individuals and groups as holding prestige. Our brains are built to learn culture from any group of human beings who display the highest level of valued skills and knowledge that has visibly brought them a high level of success. So what I'm telling you is that humans have a prestige psychology, as you already are well aware of, because you have it too. We all have it. And you use it all the time. You have some role models, people you've looked up to. Could be just people in your community, or it could be someone like LeBron James or Oprah Winfrey or Shelley Ann Fraser Price, or some very successful person who you identified with and you started copying them. You pay more attention to prestigious people than other people. And once you have prestige, people will lock in on you, start listening to you, copying you, and learning culture from you. Prestige psychology is a genetically evolved mental adaptation for learning culture from prestigious, successful people, or groups of people, like races. Races can have prestige and status associated with them as well. So racial groups can be one form of the groups of people we assign prestige to, and then start learning from and copying culture from them preferentially. Now, you could probably see where this goes now in explaining how anti-blackness and white is better ideas are internalized by Black and other non-white people. And if you've been a member of this channel for a few years, you've seen me explain the power of prestige bias psychology before. So you already know how this is going to end. But, for those who haven't been a member for a while, here's the relationship. Currently, and for the past few hundred years, white people are this successful, prestigious group that the rest of the world has been locked into, and to varying degrees, copying and imitating them. We copy lots of helpful things from them, but we also learn and internalize white supremacist beliefs and values, because those values have been a part of white Western culture for hundreds of years. Western media is part of the delivery system for these anti-blackness values, white supremacy values, white is better values. And because it is the biggest media machine, as in the whole world watches Western movies, TV shows, news networks, and you can add, what we see and learn over the internet now and social media as well. Their recent historical and current superior civilizational status, wealth, skill, and competence, they are just broadcast all over these forms of media, solidifying them in the minds of the non-white world as the most successful race. And all of this is in the minds of many people, at least unconsciously, it's associated with their physical appearance. Being at the top of the global status hierarchy as white people are in so many areas, it's just a perfect storm for the internalizing of the racially harmful views and values and beliefs that historically existed in Western society, and of course, to some extent they still do, just not as overtly, powerfully as they used to be, many, many decades ago. Now, because of our mental adaptation for learning culture from other people, it's picky and selective in whom it seeks to learn culture from. This is where Western media, white supremacy, and anti-blackness culture find their way into our minds. The combination of the race with the most prestige also holding views of other races that are expressed through their media that are harmful to non-white people mean their views of us, whether they are conscious of them or not, will enter the minds of many of the people exposed to Western culture. In part 2, we explored what intergroup competition is and how cultural attractiveness standards from different races compete with one another, with white beauty standards winning the competition globally, and the losers of this competition internalizing a negative view and feeling of their own racial appearance, evidenced by the video of how the plastic surgery industry in South Korea is built off East Asians getting plastic surgery to look like white Westerners.
It's not just eyelid surgery, but nose reshaping to elevate the nose and facial contouring to slenderize a typically rounder Asian face.
When patients come in and talk about why they want these types of surgeries, what do they tell you?
The Chinese and Korean patients tell me that they want to have some face like Americans.
Dr. Kim says in Asia's increasingly global economy, he believes appearance is simple math in the equation of success.
It's a financial investment in their life.
It can have more than 100 times improvement than their investment. They can find a much better job if they have pretty faces.
And to many here, a pretty face is a Western one, an image of beauty everywhere in Asia, from American models and superstars to wide-eyed Asian faces, an ideal Mingpyong recognizes, pointing to this blonde woman as someone who she thinks is beautiful. And when we look at Asian models,
Which woman is beautiful? Why? Why is she ugly?
her eyes, she responds.
Prestige psychology causes a phenomenon known as prestige bias group transmission to occur. So let's use that South Korean video as an example of prestige bias group transmission. So you have the very successful group, let's say the United States, or you could really say all of Western civilization, but I think much of that focus will be the United States. Then you could take the less successful civilization, it could be East Asian, or you could just say South Korean. But because, America and the Western world, they are so very successful and they broadcast this success all over the world through various forms of media. So we watch all kinds of stuff that come out of Western Europe and the United States, the whole world does. But it broadcasts their success, their competence, their skills, their knowledge. So that gives them prestige, and now you get a lot of populations around the world, pretty much the rest of the world really, to some extent, everyone's imitating the Western world. So what's happened in South Korea and throughout East Asia in general is that high status and success of the Western world, they associate that with the physical appearance of white people. Now, as an Asian person, this is going to help you if you have a more white shape to your face, a white nose bridge, and you've changed your eye shape to look more like the eye shape of white Western people. So this is going to make you more attractive in Korea or in China or in Japan. So this is how the culture of the successful group is being transmitted because of the prestige bias psychology that exists in all of us. That prestige bias psychology is focused on the top group with status and prestige and learning cultural adaptations from them. There's transfer, it's a download basically of cultural software with regard to beauty standards and many other things into the South Korean population, for example. That's exactly what you saw in that video. But as you saw also in that video, It was in a little girl who was like 12 years old, and she's already pointing at features specific to Asian people and saying, you know, that's ugly. The features that look more like white people, that's what she thought was attractive and good. And that's why she wanted to have the surgery. Now, you wouldn't accuse that girl of being racist or of consciously seeking out this information. It's the prestige bias psychology. It acts as an adaptation. Now, by that, what do I mean? Your nose is an adaptation. You don't tell your nose to smell. You walk into a room, start smelling stuff. Half the time your nose smells stuff you don't want to smell. But it's an adaptation. You don't have to tell it to turn on or what, it's there. Same thing with your ears. There's a lot of things we don't want to hear, but we hear it. That's what an adaptation does. And you should think of your prestige bias psychology a bit like that. Obviously, it works in a more subtle and gradual, over time manner, but you don't kind of activate it. You don't tell it to happen. When you're around and you see you're exposed to prestigious people or groups, some of their stuff that they do, you're going to want to imitate and copy. You're going to defer to them. You're going to want to be around them if possible. But this is how that psychology works, because it's an adaptation. Just like these other adaptations that we have, that we don't actually have to tell to happen. Unfortunately, this part of our psychology was not built for what the world looks like today. It is now a prime candidate for being what's called an evolutionary mismatch, because it can cause us to adopt cultural ideas and practices from other groups that are quite dysfunctional and harmful. But this is because we can now transmit culture all around the world. So the way prestige bias psychology worked ancestrally is you learned from the people around you. They were in the same environment, they looked like you, they may have been a little bit different, maybe ethnically, linguistically, but that's it. But now South Koreans are learning from people oceans away, racially different environments. And so now, because they're associating the success of the Western world with what Western people look like, as in white Western people, prestige bias psychology is causing them to learn culture from over there and adopt it there. And that's now becoming their value with regard to what's attractive. So the more you look like a white person, the more status it gives you. And they were in the video, they were saying it can help them get jobs. And obviously it's going to help with mate value. But if it's helping in many other areas as well in terms of employment, well, now we're talking economics as well. So that's a serious incursion into Korean culture of standards that will, create a lot of dysfunction in their society. Some of the qualities we look for that cause us to find people attractive are under the control of cultural programming. Whiteness is presently linked with higher status immediately, making them more attractive. Or what is adjacent to white comes after that. So cultural programming that infuses those standards in what people value in a mate will place whites at the top, because humans are a highly status-oriented creature. There are countermeasures to this cultural programming, because some qualities we find attractive are not culturally programmed. Some of them are biological. Now, this is the only reason black men are not at the bottom of the global mate value desirability hierarchy. If attractiveness was all what we learn just culturally, being perceived as more strongly physically masculine and having high genetic quality would not keep us from being at the bottom of the global desirability rankings. Now, you're probably going to have a lot of questions about some of the things I've said throughout the series or in this video. So leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you want me to analyze something else from an evolutionary perspective, place that request in the comments and you can see it in a future video.